Okay, here we go. Welcome, everyone. We are live. It is our Native Wellness Power Hour. And let's see, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22. Today is our 323rd Native Wellness Power Hour. So we want to welcome you. My name is Jillene Joseph. I am a Ani from Fort Belknap, Montana. I live in Oregon, and I am the executive director of the Native Wellness Institute. For those of you, maybe you're tuning in for the first time, at the beginning of the pandemic last year, we knew that an already traumatized people would be re-traumatized in this pandemic. And we wanted to do our part, our contribution, and we brainstormed and we came up with the idea to do these Native Wellness Power Hours. We know that a trauma response to help, mitigate that is to be consistent and have predictability in your life. So every day at the same time, at the same place, we offer our Native Wellness Power Hours. We started out going 7 days a week because we've never been in a pandemic. We didn't know how long it was going to go. And as the months kept going, we cut back to 5 days a week. So Monday through Friday. All past power hours can be found on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube channel. And they're really intended to help people on their healing and wellness journeys. So they're basically like a 1 hour workshop with lots of tools and strategies to help you along your healing and wellness journey. So we're super glad that you're here. I have two of my favorite colleagues that are joining us today, and they'll introduce themselves now. So Chenoa, do you want to go first?
Hey, hot slachelt wa gulapu de ashed. Chenoa's teed stat spoyalip upshed. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chenoa and I'm Puyallup, and I'm also a community health worker with Native Wellness Institute. It's good to be here.
Awesome. And Shalene.
Hi everyone, my name is Shalene Joseph. I am Ani on my mom's side and Kwaikon at the Baskin on my dad's side. And I also work for the Native Wellness Institute alongside the Indigenous 20-somethings project.
Nice. And the Native Wellness Institute, for those of you that don't know, we are a national nonprofit organization. I really don't like to say nonprofit. I like to say social profit because the work that we do is benefiting our communities. So we exist because of the lasting impacts of historical and intergenerational trauma. And just as importantly, we exist because of historical and intergenerational wisdom and resiliency and healing. Impacts of historical and intergenerational. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to share it. I'm like all multitasking over here. So today we're happy to talk about anxiety and like tips and tools to move through it. So that's what today is about. And we know that, because we are still in this pandemic and some of our areas, like the area that we live in, we're experiencing a spike in cases. And we know that the pandemic has, really been layered on top of maybe like our regular trauma that we experience. And, anxiety has increased. We've certainly have received calls and texts and emails about, people like really struggling. And so today we wanted to focus on that and provide the tools. So Chenoa, like she said, she's one of our community health workers and she's like doing COVID response. We also call her our native Dr. Fauci. She attends like medical seminars and she's my go-to for COVID stuff. And she's also gonna share, her tools and strategies, things that have, been useful to her. So Chenoa, how about just kind of like giving us a little update on like the COVID scene?
Yeah, so thank you for that intro, and definitely we want to continue to be safe because we are seeing the numbers go back up, and they're talking about going into a fourth wave. And so so we want to make sure that we're practicing good social distancing and continuing to wear a mask and get vaccinated if and when you can. And I wanted to tell you that I looked up some numbers on the CDC regarding anxiety, and the quick stats that they have were that there were 4.9 million visits to the ER from like mental health related things. So their primary diagnosis was like anxiety or some other mental health diagnosis, and that was from 2018. And so and I think most medical and health professionals are seeing like that increase in people with anxiety. And so I couldn't even give a number for what's going on in the pandemic. And I feel like that's just like the tip of the iceberg, because not everybody who has anxiety needs to go to the emergency room. And so with the increase of the numbers of people with anxiety, we're probably going to see an increase in ER visits due to anxiety. Speaking of anxiety, like I'm managing my own anxiety right now because we're live. so um so yeah, that's what we're seeing is like everything is going up because we're in this pandemic. And I think it's kind of helpful to understand sometimes what's going on in our brains when we're having anxiety. And if you've ever worked with kids or done any trainings in trauma related fields, a lot of us have had this using their hand to model a brain. Have you ever heard this where like this is your brain stem, and so that's like where your this is the part that's closest to the spine, and that's what keeps you awake and helps you go to sleep and make sure your heart's beating, and this is what keeps you safe. And then if this were like your amygdala, that's like your emergency response. So that's what goes off with like when you have the fight, flight, or freeze events, like if you need to get out of your house because your house is on fire, that's the part of brain that is like responding. And then if this part were like your prefrontal and frontal cortex, this is like your decision making brain, and this is like understanding other people's feelings and ability to calm yourself, ability to make choices, your morality and your ability to sense what's going on for others, like your body language. So that's where all of this is. So that kind of like covers that up. And so when we have a response, like when we hear something on the news where the numbers are going up, or where or any trauma response, we like that part reacts. And so that's why, like if you could think of it like flipping your lid. So so when we're in trauma, sometimes that part doesn't like go all the way back down. And so we're always just kind of like at this level when you're like in a stressful situation. So for example, if you are experiencing violence in the home or racism, like you might always be at this level. And so now we're in a pandemic and this level might be higher. And so that's that's one way to understand why we're seeing these levels of anxiety as a whole, just like always like boom, you're up, like boom, I'm like your heart's racing, your palms are sweaty, and your shoulders are touching your ears, and you're just like ah. So so it's a normal response to an abnormal situation is how I like to think of it.
Nice, thank you. And I know that um, lots of schools are using that flipping your lid model, right, to help children self-regulate, right, to help bring their lid back down. So you're in here and you can connect the dots between behaviors and consequences and things like that. So I just Googled anxiety to get the definition that I wanted to read. So it says, and this is from Medline Plus, anxiety is a feeling of fear, dread, and uneasiness. It might cause you to sweat, feel restless and tense, and have a rapid heartbeat. It can be a normal reaction to stress. For example, you might feel anxious when faced with a difficult problem at work, before taking a test or before making an important decision. So definitely we're connecting anxiety to being in the pandemic, in addition to like maybe other trauma or stresses that you have in your life. So what COVID does is just kind of like, you know, amplifies everything, right? And so because we're trying to be solution oriented on here, and I know Casey Nicholson did a couple of great power hours on anxiety as well. So we're just offering, you know, more power hours and tools to help us move through anxiety. So, and then also I can only stay for like 10 more minutes and I have to leave. So then it will just be Shalene and Chenoa. So just putting it out there in case I just all of a sudden fall off the screen. um, so Chenoa, I know you wanted to share some of your tips and strategies. So would you like to share some of those now?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank Casey if he's watching, because I loved those presentations he did on laughter is medicine, because I was like, yes. And so
He's on
that,
actually.
oh,
He's
hi,
on
Casey.
saying hi. Hi, Casey.
Those are great. And when he was talking about laughing inappropriately, I was like, oh my gosh, you were like, that's it exactly. And so what I wanted to share about that was like, as some of us are experiencing anxiety, there's probably most likely there are always people who are not, like, you know, they're always like the cool ride the roller coaster kind of people, and they're like, yeah, whatever. And to those people, first of all, I want to say that I envy that. And second of all, sometimes it's helpful to understand what's happening to a person who's having anxiety to be a good support person. And so I love the idea of laughter. And one thing to note, to not laugh at the person, but laughing with the person, because sometimes we can't laugh at our own anxiety until it's like all over. Me, I'm a person that I laugh regardless. I'm like, oh my God, I'm having another anxiety attack, and you know, whatever. And sometimes it doesn't feel, sometimes it feels very, very real. And so yeah, just a note about that. And then in terms of like when a person's experiencing anxiety in the moment, I don't know if are you guys familiar with the frog analogy? Like if you put a frog in boiling water, they'll jump right back out, right? And then if you put a frog in cold water and like turn up the heat, they'll like sit in there and get hotter and boil till somebody removes them or turns off the heat, hopefully.
Or
And
eats them.
so
Just kidding.
huh?
Or eats them.
Or fry them up, you know, whatever. And so that's kind of the way that I think about anxiety in terms of like an anxiety attack. Like you're already in the boiling water. And so for me, the first thing I do like is I have to like reassess, like, is my like, I just stop. Like if especially if you're a person who like does the what if path, like what if you know, what if, I don't know, what if the bookcase falls down on me and I hit my head? What if, and then like you start getting into like these irrational what if, and you're like, oh my gosh, just stop, take a breath, and then you reassess, like ask yourself, am I in danger? And then if you're looking around and there's like, you know, it's totally quiet. I know for me, I experience anxiety when things are calm. And so like if because my mind is like doing, you know, like you're doing the hamster wheel or whatever, and I'm just like, you'd start worrying, and because there are things to worry about in life. And so asking yourself, am I actually in danger? And then if my shoulder's up here, then I like, okay, like I physically like bring my shoulders down and I start focusing on my breathing. And I do a deep breath, and then I say, and then you go, just say it out loud, even if it feels ridiculous, but right here, right now, in this moment, everything is fine. And then I say it again, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, right here, right now, like everything is fine. And then you kind of start to be like, oh, okay, we're breathing deep. And this can even be helpful even when you are sick. Like if you have asthma, or if you're having an asthma attack, or if you're having bronchitis and it feels like because they also see in if you ask pretty much any nurse or doctor that I've spoken to in the ER, or triage nurses will tell you, in addition to like having this breathing thing, you're experiencing anxiety, and so you're like this, and then you have to go and that will help breathe back down, get the oxygen into your lungs and out to your limbs. Because when your palms are sweaty and and it feels like they're clammy and cold, that your blood, there's actually like a physiological response. That blood is like going to your heart and your lungs because it needs you to, your body's telling you to run, get out of the burning house, or get to a safe place, even if there's not anything that is physically in danger. And I've actually spoken with ER or triage nurses who are like, we do see people in the ER that we need to treat because of anxiety. And so that's why it's so important to like really assess that situation in the moment. So that's the first thing, is just deep breathing, and then saying, right here, right now, I'm okay, and focusing on the moment. And even if you have to like count 5 things physically in front of you, like I see a computer, a language book, a glass of water, a table, and those things are real, and that kind of like helps ground. And then like putting your feet down if you can, it's so helpful to like take your shoes off if you can, safely, and go outside and like step on the earth and like breathe the fresh air with. But if you're around people, keep your mask on, stay 6 feet, 6 feet.
I
And
can
also,
know if I can just jump in there real quick.
yeah, please.
Well, let me grab. I One of my self-regulation things is I have this sheepskin, and I have my bare feet on, and this is like so comforting, and like it's one of my self. I don't really have anxiety, but I like to feel good, and I have stress and stuff like that. So that is one of my, like with my bare feet, like especially if it's raining or I can't get outside or whatever, like I step on that.
That's so funny, because look what I have. So soft.
Awesome.
Get you a chewy toy and like just, and it's just, and especially if you're like a tactile learner, or like if you're there's like visual and tactile and like activity. What is that? It's not a physical learner, like when you use your body to learn things like this, like touching something that's very soft and soothing is like, it's so nice. So if you can do that, it is harder. Like if you're driving on long road trips and you can't, part of anxiety too is it can be like a feeling of loss of control. And so if you're not, and it doesn't mean that you're like a controlling person, but sometimes if it feels like you are in a situation that is out of your own personal control, that can feel really scary to a lot of people. And I think that triggers anxiety for me. Like if I feel like I'm going to get hurt, or if like someone around me is going to get hurt, and I can't control that. And things in life happen. And um, so like if you're driving, and if it feels like there's like, pull over if you can, and just, or roll the window down and just feel like the breeze coming in on you. Hopefully it's like clear weather, not getting like splattered with rain and bugs and stuff, or but just having like a physical connection.
Yeah. I think another important thing that you said, you talked about the signs and symptoms that you might start feeling if you're, having an anxiety attack, or the beginning phases of an anxiety attack. So you talked about the sweaty palms, right? Or the heart rate. And I think it's important to know those, because if like, oh man, my hands are starting getting sweaty, like I'm feeling this coming on, like,
Mhm.
and you start doing the self-regulation activities then, right? Instead of waiting full blown, like, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack, I need to go to the ER, right? So
Yeah.
the minute you start like feeling that, like to go into the self-regulation activities like right away, right?
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that can be helpful too is to write it down. Like if you have a pen and paper handy, I'm like, I'm like a big fan of journaling, but I am not consistent about journaling. And so, but like every time it's like, especially if this is new for you, because they are seeing, you know, a lot of folks have never had experience with anxiety. And it really does, it can feel like I need to go to the emergency room. Like I can't breathe. And is this the first sign of COVID? And that's it's a horrible feeling. And and so feeling like your chest is tight, like those are okay. See you,
I
Jillene.
know, I gotta go, see you later, thank you.
Thank you. So feeling like you can't breathe, like it does, it starts to feel suffocating. And so writing it down how you feel in that moment, especially as you're coming down, you know, coming out of your if it's just an anxiety attack, coming out of it, you can reflect back on it and then look at your triggers. Like, was it something that someone said or did, or something that you know, too much caffeine and not enough water, or not enough food? That's always like, I'm always like, the first thing, okay, am I dehydrated? Need a drink of water. But those are kind of the same things, some of the things that I that I do that I think are helpful. um, I was going to say something too about if you're a support person and not a person who has the blessing of never experiencing anxiety. Because I don't know if you feel like this, but I feel like life is kind of like a roller coaster, right? There's ups and downs. And there are some people who are like, oh my gosh, I'm getting on that roller coaster. My arms are up here. Oh yeah, the seatbelt, yeah, whatever, you know, just get in and woo, wind's blowing in my hair, front row seat. And there are other people who are like, okay, we're getting this roller coaster. You gotta like amp up and like, okay, seatbelt on, check, 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 check. And then we're like, okay, like just trying to enjoy because everybody else is enjoying it. And so I feel like, I mean, I'm sure there's like all kinds of variations in between, but I feel like for me, like I'm for a lot of people, I feel like I'm not alone here, right? That like we get like you know, just cautious about things. And I want to be able to just like wave my hands in the air and like just get on and ride. And so for the people who are like woo, like one really big thing I would like to ask for as a support person is you know, don't belittle or like don't say calm down or get over yourself or it's no big deal, like oh my gosh, so here you go worrying again. And I remember one time my seventh grade teacher, it was actually, this is like a really embarrassing, humiliating story, like how many people are going to watch this, and don't judge me, okay? um but I was having an anxiety attack, and I didn't have the language to understand what was happening to my body. And I think thankfully, like I feel like we're in a better place in society to where more people are understanding anxiety and at least can like label it, because that's one thing for me was like having a name for it, and being able to like say, oh, this is just happening. And it's not just all in my head, because it's not all in your head. It's a like a physiological response. And anyway, my seventh grade teacher sent me to the nurse's office and was like, remember it was like on the little, remember on the pink slips that you'd get like if you were bad or sick or something, and then you get like the hall pass. And on hers the reason was hypochondriac. And I was like, what is that? Do I have that? What is little did I know that, you know, what what hypochondria means, which I feel like that's like a label. And I was when I asked the nurse or the adult or whoever I asked what that was and if I had it, it was humiliating. It was so embarrassing. I was like, oh, so it's like all in my head. And so that's why it's important to like you know, I can laugh about it now, but as a seventh grader, that was like, yeah, it's like mortifying. Don't judge me.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, well, seventh grade, that's really early, and that's pretty bold of your teacher. Um, but also, I think for me, I'm the jump on the roller coaster type. But I also deal with anxiety. But I didn't know that's what it was called, like my whole life. And it's like weird anxiety. Like I don't even know what my like triggers are. It just kind of like pops up one day and I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like this doesn't feel good. But I'm also like the type that like the pandemic actually was what like the majority of my life pre-pandemic, I was like, I don't have time to deal with all of that. So I would just kind of like, you know, sweep it under and carry on with life. And there was always just so much to do. So I think distracting myself was what I did pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic hit and it was like, no, we're going to deal with this now. And so I've been able to like really look inwards and see, you know, what are the things that are causing this anxiety, what things work for me. Because like I think as I tried to explain, it took me until like my master's program where I had friends that were like, that's anxiety. And I was like, oh, well, what do you do about this? And then it like all of the coping mechanisms that I've grown up with that I know about, like it didn't occur that I need to do those things more often. And but the pandemic was kind of one of those, like one of the pandemic blessings was that it gave me the time, well, like months ago before we got like insanely busy, but the time to really sit and figure out like what are those things that I need to do so that I don't lose my mind. But I'm seeing a couple people in the chat and I agree, like music has always been something like before I even knew that it was anxiety, like I would just sit and listen to music. And for those of you who don't know me very well, I love the arts in like all of its forms. And so I would like try something new or and then I figured out that's part of my anxiety is like I am a perfectionist and if something goes wrong, I throw it away. Or like, you know, just that's a whole nother thing. But, you know, I think really paying attention to ourselves has been kind of one of like the better adventures. Always something I avoided because I was like, oh God, I have to like really look at myself, which I never wanted to do. And in these like last couple of months, just really figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And I think one of the awesome things is like listening to what other people do and trying them out. And sometimes I'm like, yo, this is not for me. And sometimes I'm like, this could be it. Like beading my entire life, I was like, I will not, I refuse. And now in the pandemic, I bead. And usually I can't focus very well. I have like a very short attention span, like the size of a flea. But I can bead. That's one thing I can like sit and do. I don't know what it is about it, but you know, it's also very calming and just kind of looking at all of these things. But I agree, like telling people that, you know, it's all in your head can be so harmful and just kind of really just sitting and thinking about what our effect is on people. Our words have power, a lot of power, and really just making sure, because I think, you know, one of the things that I continuously think about is the people who have felt the need to express, you know, whether it's like hatred towards me or, you know, whatever it may be. My mom always says like hurt people hurt people. So I try not to like hold on to it. And I'm just like, yeah, like bob and weave. But then also looking internally as well, like, you know, making sure that I'm, you know, careful with my words because they do have power and influence. Everyone's words have influence on somebody. And so I think that's been like something that I've been taking a look at. And then just kind of lastly, before I pass it back to you, like the access piece, I've been giving like less and less people, like, I guess people use the word access, but I've just been kind of like, you know, coming into myself and like, you know, with the people that are in my home and the few people that I talk to. Now I'm starting to use social media a little bit more again. I took like a good break, which was so needed and necessary and nice to not like, you know, feel the, I don't know, whatever social media the need was. But just like taking breaks and being more in the moment. I've been like doing more adventures with my niece. Today's her 4th birthday. And so happy birthday to her. I know she's not watching because she's got better things to do with her life. But anyhow, you know, just really kind of figuring out what are the things that make me happy and doing more of that. And so yeah, that's kind of what it made me think about is like when it comes to self-care or anxiety, because I think one of the things that people are most shocked about when I'm like, yeah, I deal with a lot of anxiety, they're like, what? Like you seem so happy. But like even the happiest people can have anxiety and deal with a lot of anxiety. And even though I do like wellness work, it doesn't mean that I have it all figured out. And like Chenoa said, it's a roller coaster. Like some days I'm like, I'm on it and I'm at the peak and I'm like, yeah, I'm efficient with life. And then other days I'm not. I'm like off the tracks, crashed and burned and trying to put my little cart back together, you know? And so I think, you know, everyone deserves the space to, you know, figure out their own healing journey and yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's perfect. It's like, yeah, giving people the space to just be who we are. I was also looking at the comments and think Casey mentioned magnesium, right? Was that what he said? So yeah, and sometimes even like vitamin D, because if we, and so I'm not prescribing anything, I'm not a doctor. So disclaimer, right? But they do see that like folks who are vitamin D deficient have higher levels of or higher, yeah, I guess higher levels of, or are more likely to have some sort of like depression or mental health. And so those things like depression, anxiety are often seen hand in hand because it does kind of, they just kind of work together for some reason. I don't know, to like, to keep you safe. And somehow I don't know how the brain chemicals work that well, but definitely. And we spend so much time indoors compared to our ancestors, where, you know, most of us, our ancestors were outdoors all the time, you know, fishing or hunting or gathering or, you know, just being outside. And now we're indoors working, and now that we're in the pandemic, we're getting less and less vitamin D. And so so yeah, we just need it, like, and water, like water and sleep are so underrated. Like that's kind of our first medicine. For me, like I'm always like, somebody's got a headache, I think you need water, you should try some water. Like if you start feeling ill, you should drink some water. So take a sip. And we don't even notice when we're dehydrated until we're already, or when we start to get dehydrated until we're already there. Like by the time you're thirsty, you're already dehydrated. And those things in terms of like triggers is like sometimes if you know, just having that hydration and even drinking something cold will help to ground you. Yep, water and sleep, man. And when you are sleep deprived, your brain is just, it's working overtime just to stay awake and just to like think. I mean, have you ever been so tired that you're like delirious? um I was reading this comment. Some no flavor sparkling water drinks have high magnesium content. There's one. I'm not really sure, but yeah, like keep it handy, because if that's your thing to keep you calm and kind of ground you, like that is awesome. Um, I know that there are some things that sort of like dampen or like calm people down that are not healthy, and so recognizing what things are healthy. I know that, and this is not a judgment on anyone, but I know alcohol is like um like a, some people use it to like self-medicate, and it's not a judgment, but I'm just saying when that effect is off, it's gone, and then you're back to square one, and so it can actually make your anxiety worse in the long run. It can. And so yeah, smudging, like doing those like you know, just using your own body's strength, because our bodies are strong, and our ancestors are strong, and they're watching out for us, and so remembering those things can really be helpful. And we're experiencing so much stress and anxiety right now, just living through the pandemic and this revolution that we're in. And I think there's just been so much things that are anxiety provoking, that it's so healthy to remember and stay grounded, use those medicines. Okay, I'm reading through your someone else is sharing the core spirit. I'm not sure what that is. We'll have to look into that. Nature and prayer. Oh yes, that reminded me. Thank you, Marie, for nature. That just reminded me, that was another thing, is like physical movements, as much as we can. Like I know that you know, we all have different abilities, and so whatever movement, whether even if it's just like bringing your arms up or in front of you, or like opening up your lungs and breathing again. Have you ever seen those balls, Shalene, that are like they're made out of plastic, and then they expand? Yeah, they like expand. I should have brought Migizzy's over. He has one somewhere. It might have fallen apart by now, but that's what we use too when we breathe, is we do like just breathing in and then like coming down, and that is really, really helpful in the moment. And writing down your triggers, or knowing what your triggers are. If you're trying to help someone, I think I saw a comment earlier about helping their child, even just doing those brain exercises and going over that brain thing that we're talking about is helping them to like that's part of helping them finding self-regulation. And like, if we're always here, you know, we're going to be like anxious all the time. And sometimes if it's in middle of the night, if you're having that you know, talking to your provider probably is one good thing, you know, making sure that all of their vitamins are good. And you know, maybe they're not, maybe it's like certain foods, because some people will not notice, like sometimes oh, okay, the birthday girl might they're gonna be right back. So sometimes if you're like feeling if you have indigestion, like sometimes kids are still learning their own bodies, and like if it's the first time they've ever had heartburn, like let's say you had something really spicy or you know, heartburny, for lack of a better word. I don't know what's another word for heartburny. Something that gives you acid reflux. That's what I'm looking for. And so understanding what's happening in their body. It could be maybe they were dehydrated and they just didn't have enough water the day before. And so knowing those triggers is so can be really helpful in prevention and being consistent. So I really like what Marie was saying about walking, just getting some sort of physical movement and being outside, and that can help with prevention too. Just knowing, like, if you are a person who's able to, like, even if you can't get outside for some reason, even if you just go back and forth and like kind of pacing in your room. And then Gina is commenting about horse therapy. That is amazing. I would love to be able to do horse therapy with our family. And oops, sorry, I didn't mean to kick the table. I was just adjusting. Definitely having any kind of like interaction with animals can be really powerful, because it's like animals understand us. Like I've, if you have there's the birthday girl.
Hi.
Hi, Christine. Are you having an apple? It's a tangerine, orange. Is it orange? Yeah, and like getting good fruits. Like sometimes if you try berries, or I one strategy, I know someone who quit smoking, and smoking can also contribute to anxiety. I don't know this as a scientific fact. I just think that anything that is like reducing your ability to breathe is going to be it's going to put it can put a damper on things. And so I know someone who used like putting a cold apple in the refrigerator and having that anytime they'd have like a craving or um, the beginning of an anxiety, just getting that really cold apple and chewing on it, and something about like the fresh taste and the crunch and the coldness was like really refreshing. And so and I love that, sitting by the trees or water, calming and grounding. Yes, I love that. It's again, like just knowing where we are in this place, in this universe, that we're just human beings, and and we're part of this enormous astronomical circle of things, of life, not just on this planet but in the universe. And having those connections and using prayer to really ground and being consistent with it. As I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of journaling, but I'm not as consistent as I could be, but I'm consistent with other things. And one thing that has helped me to move through this pandemic is like just grounding, like putting my feet in the ground, and those deep breathing, and being consistent with those before the anxiety even kicks in. And limiting your, like how Shalene was mentioning, limiting your, not just social media, but limiting your news intake. So it's important to stay aware of the facts and know what's going on and how to keep yourself safe and healthy, and not overwhelm yourself with all of the things. Because I almost threw myself into a whole new anxiety. I was reading an article, probably it was over the summertime when we were in our first or second wave, I'm not even sure. We were experiencing really high numbers, and I was reading about all of the outbreaks of COVID in nursing homes and rehabilitation centers, and my heart was just breaking. And it's sad and it's scary, and I couldn't breathe, and I was like, oh my God, I can't breathe. And then I did my grounding exercises, and it was pretty intense. It was an intense feeling. And then and just remembering like doing my deep breathing, because I was like, okay, even if this is an actual like I can't breathe situation, I know that if my mind is starting to calm, that the oxygen will get to me easier. So even if you have, because I do have asthma, and sometimes that can trigger anxiety, and then it kind of goes back and forth, and then I'm like, wait, can I not breathe because I'm like, I can't breathe because I'm not breathing. I'm like doing that thing. So yeah. Sorry, I was just reading the comments again. I'm really anxious. I'm not anxious. I'm interested to know what other things that you all do that are helpful in preventing your anxiety. What else do you guys do? Got horse therapy, sitting by the trees or water. What do you do when you're driving and you have anxiety and you can't pull over? You know that road? Does anybody know that road? If you're driving from like the Bay Area to Reno, and there's like all these hills, and it's like really windy, and you're going up and down in the elevation, and like it's dark, and you're like, oh my God, there's nowhere to pull over. What if I have to pull over for some reason? And I don't know if anyone has seen that or been on those roads, but I'm just using that as an example.
I know that road, and we drove it in the middle of a snowstorm. We were the last car through, and they shut the gate behind us, and then we were like, all right, we're in this. And then I was driving, so it was fine, but and I don't think anybody everybody was sleeping. It was late. It was just me, and I was listening to an audiobook at the time, which if it works for people, do it. I had to switch to music because like anybody listen to what's it called? The cover is like Braiding Sweetgrass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she has like this like soft voice. And I was driving and I was like, oh. Okay. So I gotta switch it up. So I had like everybody like sleeping, but we were jamming out. Yeah, I think music has been while driving anyhow. Sometimes a book, it depends.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say whatever will distract me, but not distracted enough I can't drive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coloring books, like being able to stop, drawing, art. I love these comments. Drum, singing. I know in the car I've done that. I'm like, okay, I gotta roll down the windows and just sing a really loud song, like blast some power music, and I'm just like hardcore singing. No, I'm just kidding. Kidding, but not really. It does help, and singing is like so good. Like, everybody has a voice, and I know there's like all this, these with the way things have changed. I feel like over the decades or whatever, there's like the people, we put these labels on things, right? There's good singers and there's people who can sing, and a long time ago everybody sang. That, like, that's part of our DNA. Like everybody just sings songs, and I think there are some traditional like teachings or knowledge in that singing is like good for your breathing. It's good for your lungs. Like, sing hard, sing loud, like you're using your diaphragm, you're breathing deep, you're like getting all the air out, and you're breathing deep back in. And you know those medicines of like the words and of whatever it is you're singing. So yep, praying and singing are like so powerful. Oh, I love dancing. Yeah, Jessica says dance, definitely that physical movement. Again, like when you're dancing, especially like if you are really putting your heart into it. And actually my spouse was like laughing at me the other day because there was a spider that came in one of my packages, and it was like this big. Okay, maybe it was like this, but it was big. And it startled me. I don't have a fear of spiders. I have fears of other random things, but it was big, and it startled me. And so I I gently placed the item down and I took a step back. But according to my spouse, he said I leaped back and my arms were up and got some mad air. So yeah, I didn't flip my lid all the way. It was just more of a startling response. But anyway, yeah, just even just like that movement like gave me a little boost of adrenaline, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to cook dinner and then do the dishes and then let's vacuum, you know. And like even like, and that physical movement is so good for endorphins is what I was looking for. The endorphins are good medicine. That's the good thing about so if anyone has taken like anatomy and physiology, you'll see that like the certain things, like even when adrenaline is released and you've got like the cortisol afterwards, you also get endorphins, and that's to help your body. Endorphins are like the hormones that make you feel good, like, and or endorphins are also released after you eat like spicy foods. And so so it's, but we can get the endorphins without the anxiety. We can strive to that. Thank you. Have a beautiful day as well. Um, yeah, so just learning how to find those, learning how to get into those endorphins without the anxiety is really good. And I will say that I do love trying new foods and like traveling and like meeting new people and all of those things. And I don't, and anxiety doesn't have to stop me from doing those things. I don't have to live in a like, and this is an invitation for anyone who experiences anxiety. You don't have to let it control your life. You can manage it. And like, and if you're one of those people that does the what if, all the what ifs, ask you, as you're saying these what ifs, stop yourself and you go, what if I'm fine? What if my kids are fine? What if my parents are fine? What if my relatives are fine? What if everything is fine? What if I've just spent the last 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 months, whatever it is, worrying about nothing? And here we are today. And right here, right now, you're okay. Right here, right now, everything is fine. And I really liked that quote about 90% of your fears are never realized, and the other 10% you can deal with. And so when you think about it that way, I would argue that like if you struggle with anxiety, I would say you have so many more fears that maybe even 95% of your fears are never realized. um that you know, thinking about it in that way and just saying everything is going to be okay, and using your medicines and dig deep. Those you know, your ancestors prayed for you, and here we are. They prayed for all of us.
Yeah, I think with just these last couple of moments, I had to make sure I wasn't muted. All right. With these last couple of moments, I think one of the like best reminders or affirmations that I like continue to like tell myself, and even if it's like just trying to make myself believe it, is that, you know, each of us here are worthy of good things. And especially if we're trying to navigate anxiety on any kind of level, right? Always remembering that we're worthy of good things, and that you know, the moments will pass. I think that's what I'm always reminding myself is like, it'll pass, and that we're worthy of good things, and to treat yourself accordingly. You know, if we're not allowing people to speak negatively about others, making sure that we're doing that for ourselves as well. Be mindful of the way that you speak about yourself or to yourself, especially, you know, being in this pandemic. It's everyone's first pandemic, and we're trying to navigate, you know, the best that we can. My mentor and friend, Jean Tagaban, is always talking about we still have every age that we've ever been within us, and every age that we will be within us. And that means that we need to take care of our inner child and take care of our inner elder. And that means being kind to each of them. So I think those are some of the reminders, well, to share with all of you and to remind myself as well, as just, be good to yourself because you deserve it. And also hygiene. And then, yeah, and you guys are awesome. And I'm just so thankful that you came to spend some time with us for this power hour. Make sure that you get in some self-care today. I know self-care is like everyone says it, but even if it is as simple as just going outside and taking a couple of deep breaths and drinking some water, it doesn't have to be these huge things. Like, a lot of people are busy, but make sure to take the time out for yourself, even if it is just a minute or two, because everybody needs it. So that's all I wanted to say to kind of wrap up, and I'll pass it back over.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, just echo that. And also just a reminder that anxiety can play out in many different forms. Like, for some of us, it may show up as like just straight up fear. And sometimes it shows up in anger, or in like accusations, or whatever that is. And so it is so, I really appreciated what you said about keeping your space for yourself, because sometimes if someone else is feeling anxious, they may, it's projecting on you what they're feeling. And it's okay to not accept those kinds of treatments. If someone isn't treating you right, protect yourself. And you are all worthy of love and respect for yourselves. And and having good self-care doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have to cost a ton of time. It can be, like you said, it can be simple as taking that drink of water and breathing deep and saying a positive thing to yourself. I love those I am worthy shirts. I love those. And you are all amazing. And laying down for 5 minutes can help sometimes when you slow down. Yes, I love that. I love naps. Can we tell all of our little ones that naps are good? Naps are good for your brain. Good for your mental health. So yes, thank you all so much for tuning in. Wear your mask, get your vaccine if you can, and stay safe out there. Love you all.
Bye, everyone.